Today on Studio One, farming techniques have evolved through time. Today we'll spend a day in the life of someone who helps people get the most from their land. Also, many homes have a table in the living room littered with remote controls. We'll show you a solution to this electronic mess. And when disaster strikes, insurance companies often help people rebuild. We'll tell you how some homeowners are finding they have little protection.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Studio One. I'm Monty Cashel.
And I'm Jill Gustafson.
Well, we had a little bit of a break over the summer here, but Studio One is back.
It was nice, but I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of great programming lined up for you, and I'm so excited that I just want to jump right into it. Can we do that?
Go for it.
All right, well, coming up today on Studio One, children who require physical therapy on a regular basis can sometimes find it rather tiresome. But we'll tell you about one program that makes physical therapy something kids can look forward to.
Also, many are unfamiliar with funeral planning until a loved one dies. Coming up, we'll talk with the funeral director about this important process.
Before we get to that, here's today's news with Sarah Spencer.
Thanks, Monty and Jill. Shots were fired at a North Carolina middle school Thursday morning. The two shots rang out as students were arriving for class. There were no reported injuries, but a student has been taken into custody. Officials have not yet determined if the student was firing at anyone in particular. The incident occurred around 8 in the morning inside of Burns Middle School. Parents began arriving at the school as word of the shooting spread. Meanwhile, school officials and parents in Cold Spring, Minnesota are meeting to discuss how to cope with the deadly shooting that occurred there Wednesday. They are encouraging students who have been traumatized by the incident to seek counseling. A 15-year-old boy opened fire at the high school, killing one student and critically wounding another. The freshman is now in police custody as a suspect. He has been identified as John Jason McLaughlin, whose father is a sheriff's deputy. Recently, many states have taken a stricter stance on drinking and driving. Several states have passed legislation that lowers the legal blood alcohol limit to 0.08%. The federal government has threatened to take away highway funding if states don't make the change. North Dakota is one of the most recent states to make this switch. After only 2 months, police forces are already seeing changes. In August, 11% of the DUI arrests in Grand Forks, North Dakota, fell in between the new limit and the previous one of 0.10%. Police say the new law makes it easier for officers to deal with drunk driving cases that were borderline in the past.
I think the average individual is going to think a little bit more about whether or not they should be driving, realizing that the level has been lowered.
Law enforcement say harsher penalties such as license suspension may also make people less likely to get behind the wheel after they drink. Most parents and doctors stress to children the dangers of too much sunlight, but there is a downside to not getting enough. Doctors say many teenagers now have a vitamin D deficiency. Ultraviolet rays from the sun interact with chemicals in the skin to produce vitamin D. Teens who don't drink enough milk or who live in areas that receive little sunlight are especially prone to this deficiency. Doctors recommend kids spend about 10 minutes in the sun a week without sunscreen. If left undetected or untreated, a lack of vitamin D can put teenagers at risk for stunted growth and increase their chances of osteoporosis later in life. A trip to the clinic or to the hospital every week for a therapy session can get exhausting, but a different idea in the field of therapy is taking kids outdoors and allowing them the freedom to ride.
1, 2, 3.
7-year-old Jenny and her mom come to this farm twice a week so Jenny can get the therapy she needs. Jenny was born with a form of dwarfism, which has affected her immune system, speech, and has deteriorated her hips. But despite her disability, Jenny has overcome many obstacles, all with the help of a horse.
She wants to come here every day if she could. And she's progressed 100% since the beginning of June.
No longer are horses just considered a pet or a sport, but they have become very popular in the field of therapy. Horses like this one can make a huge difference in the life of a child with a disability.
The program is called Mainly Therapy. The instructors here say the horse is just another tool in working the patient's muscles that haven't been used before.
Ready? Good girl.
You're sitting and your pelvis is perpendicular to the pelvis of the horse, so as the horse walks and its pelvis is moving, it actually is, it's mobilizing the pelvis of the person that's riding it.
Those who practice mainly therapy also teach what they call barn time, where they focus on other skills such as stretching, jumping, and other activities involving movement. But patients seem to prefer riding the horses instead.
What it helps out with is overall balance, strength of the child. A lot of it is just emotional. They like to get on the horse and it makes them feel good, and it's just something that they like to do.
Helps me get stronger in my legs.
Like Jenny, patients Monica and Brandon also enjoy not having to go to the clinic all the time for their therapy. Coming to the farm is a way for them to relax and forget about their disabilities. It also gives them something they can sing about.
So kiss me and smile for me.
With photographer Sten Brand, I'm Kristen Gillick reporting for Studio One News.
Mainly therapy can be a helpful resource to both children and adults. It has been known to help people who are blind, those with developmental disabilities, and people with autism. And that's news for now. Monty and Jill?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Well, it's nice to see people out enjoying themselves on those horses.
And it's beautiful weather, so that works out pretty
it's a great time of the year to be out doing things like that.
Let's go to BJ Eisen at the Regional Weather Information Center and see how the weather's doing.
Well, Monty and Jill, we have been seeing beautiful conditions all across the United States throughout the past week. But first, before we get into anything, let's take a look at our average temperatures for our viewing areas. As you can see, the average temperatures in the state of North Dakota for this time of year, now that we've entered fall, is right around 67 for the high, 41 for the low. Temperatures just about the same for the Minneapolis area. As for southern Manitoba, their averages are at 16 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius for the low, and Portland, Oregon actually staying above average the past couple of weeks, right around 71 degrees. As we take a look at departure from those normal average temperatures for this time of year, we can see that the Midwestern section of the United States is staying anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees below normal. The states of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota are all seeing temperatures very chilly. Their temperatures, high temperatures during the day are only reaching up into the mid-50s. As we move out to the Pacific Northwest, though, areas around Seattle and Portland are actually seeing temperatures 5 to 10 degrees above average. So very nice conditions out there in the mid-70s for them as well. Taking a look at the polar jet stream, what the polar jet stream is it's the fastest moving flow of air in the upper atmosphere. And what it does is that it usually controls the flow of weather systems and fronts across the U.S. And what it does besides that is it blocks the northern Canadian air from the southern moist, warm air, and that's how we have storms merging right at this boundary. But what it does is it allows below average temperatures to the north of it, above average temperatures down to the south, and even some average temperatures out to the southeast. Looking at the national weather for right now, though, we do have high pressure system dominating much of the Great Lakes and Ohio River valleys, but we do have a frontal system moving off the eastern coast, bringing more rain showers for them. But the big weather maker right now is that low pressure system up into the north and west sections of the United States, bringing a few rain showers to North Dakota and South Dakota, but allowing that very cold air to flow into the interior of the U.S. Here's your Studio One Weather IQ question for today. Throughout U.S. history, where did the most expensive landslide occur? You have a few choices ranging from Fort Collins, Colorado, all the way to Riverside, California. So Monty and Jill will have the answer to that question, your national forecast, and we'll be talking about river hazards, all coming up in the second half of the show.
Thanks, VJ.
Do you have any idea about where the...
I'm going to go for California.
California?
Call it women's intuition, but it's
where
going
the
to
faults
California.
are?
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows?
Riverside's good
We'll have to find out. Let's go now to sports news with Greg Ankers.
All right, thanks Monty and Jill. With the American League Division champs already set and under 1 week left in regular season play, the National League race for the pennant continues. Let's go to the highlights now. Start off with San Francisco at Houston. It was a scoreless game going into the second inning when Pedro Feliz takes Roy Oswalt deep into left field for his 15th home run of the season. That made the score 1-0 Giants. Jose Vizcaíno gets a base hit with the bases loaded in the seventh inning, scoring 2 runs as Richard Hidalgo gets thrown out trying to stretch his run into third. Power versus power in the ninth as Billy Wagner gets the better of Barry Bonds, blowing a 101-mile-per-hour fastball right by him. The Astros held on for the 2-1 win. Cubs and the Reds now with a scoreless game. Aramis Ramirez takes one deep, but not deep enough as Ryan Friel makes a spectacular grab, keeping the game scoreless. In the third, Sammy Sosa is up to his old antics with his 536th career home run, tying him for 10th all-time with Mickey Mantle. Later that inning, Paul Bacco drills one into center. This one will clear the bases as Moises Halou and 2 other Cubs come around to score. The Cubs roll to the 8-0 victory over the Reds, remaining 1 game ahead of Houston in the NL Central race. More high school girls are taking part in athletics than ever before. The National Federation of State High School Associations conducted a study that shows girls are closing the gap with boys at a record rate. The only marginal difference between the two groups is the number of football participants among boys across the country. Researchers say the number of athletes of both genders has been gradually increasing since the late 80s. One reason for the change may be Title IX rules, which required schools to offer equal opportunities for women. Whatever the reason, athletic directors and coaches say they have noticed this nationwide trend.
The girls have made progress because of all the things that has been opened up to them at local levels, which are certainly critical to the success of any program. And then as they have progressed, as they become older, we've just seen it blossom into the high school.
The National Federation of State High School Associations found that over 49,000 more high school girls participated in sports last year. Now it's time for the Studio One Sports Trivia question. Who has the most career three-point field goals in the NBA? Some sharp shooters there on the list. We'll have that answer and more later on in the broadcast. Monty and Jill?
Thanks a lot, Greg. Well, actors Sean William Scott and wrestler The Rock have teamed up in a comedy mixed with a lot of action. We'll look at the new movie, The Rundown, later.
And planning a funeral can be a difficult process. Next, we'll talk with the funeral director to find out how families can prepare for this important time.
Explore the educational opportunities available through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota. With just one phone call or a click of the mouse, you'll find high-quality programs designed for today's adults. We have a large selection of continuing education courses that are available at a time and place that's convenient for you. Discover a world of learning through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
The School of Engineering and Mines at UND has a long history of preparing students for successful careers. Through small classes and faculty involvement, students have unique opportunities to gain hands-on experience. Here, students launch a weather balloon to test a remote imaging device destined for Earth orbit. Students can also become involved in wind energy and fuel cell projects, design, build, and race a Formula One car, or even develop a camera that will generate agricultural images from the International Space Station. Find out for yourself how you can get involved at UND School of Engineering and Mines.
The University of North Dakota College of Business and Public Administration offers real degrees for real people. Our nationally recognized faculty can help you earn a master's degree in business through evening classes.
Taking these evening classes were very convenient for me, and that's how I was able to complete the program.
We offer degrees for people who work, raise families, and lead busy lives. The UND College of Business and Public Administration, real degrees for real people.
Let the University of North Dakota become your strategic partner by providing your business with skills to enhance your workforce retention and productivity efforts. The UND Office of Workforce Development has extensive experience in conducting employee satisfaction research, workforce needs assessments, and the development of customized training materials. Call us for further information. Workforce Development, a service of the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
You're watching Studio One, honored by the Northwest Broadcast News Association for excellence in cable television.
All families will grieve the loss of a loved one. Many have difficult time taking on the responsibility of arranging a funeral. Funeral homes are there to help. Licensed funeral director Phil Amundsen will explain his many roles in the funeral process. Thanks for coming on the show today, Phil.
You're welcome, Monty.
Well, first of all, I want to talk about your business in particular. It's a family business, and could you just tell us how you got your roots into the funeral business?
It started in our family with my father. Back when he was in high school, had a unique curiosity within this particular trade. So he knocked upon the door of a local funeral home looking for a job, and that's where it all started. He's been at it since, and that was in 1942.
Okay, and it seems like it's common in this line of work that generations do take on, what the previous generations have done. Is it like that quite a bit?
It's very common. Second and third and even fourth generation funeral directors are not uncommon today. My brother and I, of course, would be the second generation. And families start working with the funeral home, and it seems as though throughout the generations they're very comfortable dealing with a particular family. So they seem to continue along with that once they've started.
Okay. Well, what is your role as a funeral director?
We have many roles. We are a counselor, you could say, to the family. They come to us not knowing where to turn or what to do. So they each bring a set of unique circumstances to us, and so we try to find out what their needs are and suggest reasonable options for them to follow. Sometimes they have very definite ideas on things, and sometimes they don't. So we serve in that role. We also serve as an embalmer for them. We also just continue to work with them throughout this very intense process throughout the next couple of days with them, throughout the funeral and then beyond, and try to satisfy all their needs.
Well, and there are a lot of needs, and you're taking on a lot of these roles. What kind of a person does it take to do this?
Well, above all, you have to be honest and you have to be trustworthy. That would be at the top of the list. Integrity. You also have to be very comfortable with people from different backgrounds, ethnic groups, religions. You have to be familiar with those and tolerant of those, and you also have to be very patient. The information that we deal with every day, families don't deal with that at all, hardly, maybe once only every 10 years. And so we have to be very patient with them. They're not thinking very clearly in the first place in many instances. The death can hit very suddenly sometimes. So we're there to help them no matter what the hour or time.
Okay. Could you explain the basic process for us?
Very typically, when a death has happened or occurred at the hospital or nursing home, we have a contact from the family, and we give them a phone call and assure them that we have been notified, and then we try to make an appointment with them very soon to talk about their needs and about the days to come. So once they come and talk to us, then we ask them about what they may have or want to plan for funeral ceremony, for services, for burial, or cremation, or whatever option they may have. Sometimes there's long distance involved, and so we try to help them with that as well, and talk over any questions or concerns really that they might have. And so that's kind of where we're at. We try to start with them as soon as we can and to let them know that we're there to help them all the way through.
Okay. What are some common misconceptions that people have about the funeral business?
Well, people are very afraid sometimes. They're very hesitant to walk in the door, even call the number, even when they need us. And so we try to be very reassuring to them. And another misconception that people would have is that they somehow will be taken advantage of during a vulnerable time. And so therefore we sometimes have to be on the defensive a little bit when we begin talking with them. And I think they find that once we have started with them that they know that we'll take care of them.
Sure. Are there any regulations set to help with this as well?
There certainly are. The funeral homes now today are very regulated. The federal regulations are prime. Federal Trade Commission really rules how we do pricing, and every family is given a total cost of their arrangements before they leave the building. So they know exactly what they're going to spend on what they've selected, or they can make changes before they leave. We also have OSHA, which is always coming up with new regulations, controlling our staff and how we go about things. And so we are a regulated industry both on the federal and state level too.
Okay. Now, you mentioned about the cost of a funeral. What is the average cost of a funeral?
Well, we find today for a complete funeral where families need a casket and a traditional funeral with burial, flowers and so on, the other accommodation items involved with cemetery, usually about somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 would cover all those needs. The family, though, does have a great deal of control over that by what they select. The services are kind of a standard fee based upon what they want, but the merchandise can vary widely in price depending upon what they select, Monty.
Okay, what are some of the things that they might select that might increase the price or actually decrease it?
Primarily casket is number one. What type of cemetery arrangements, how large the plots would be, how many in their family they prepare for, if they need an upright monument for a family. Flowers can, some families may spend $100, some may spend $1,100. So these are things that are well within the control. Also, if they choose to have an elaborate reception, sometimes that's taken care of by the church members, so it's done very moderately. Sometimes they do a catered meal or a meal at the restaurant for all the friends, and that could be a lot more costly. So those are some of the options that could vary the price greatly.
Well, if what's a way, maybe a tip to wrap up for people to prepare for this process, even if they're not thinking of this right now, but something they can help to prepare?
A very simple way, Monty, is to share some thoughts. Just write them down on paper so that you can have them organized. If you have some definite thoughts about funeral and planning, also about your own obituary or your own life history, biography, you can do that very simply and also without any cost. You can keep that in your home and share that with your family, and you can also file it with your funeral home too. They're glad to do that for you.
Okay. Well, Phil, thanks for giving us all this information. It was great.
Thanks for having me today, Monty.
Thanks. Not everyone is fortunate enough to live near the ocean so they can play beach volleyball, but we'll tell you how some restaurants are bringing the beach to the players. Also, some nutrients are essential for a healthy body. Soil also needs special nutrients to grow healthy crops. Next, we'll see how farmers get the help from experts for their crops' health.
University of North Dakota. Let the University of North Dakota become your strategic partner by providing your business with skills to enhance your workforce retention and productivity efforts. The UND Office of Workforce Development has extensive experience in conducting employee satisfaction research, workforce needs assessments, and the development of customized training materials. Call us for further information. Workforce Development, a service of the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota. Explore the educational opportunities available through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota. With just one phone call or a click of the mouse, you'll find high-quality programs designed for today's adults. We have a large selection of continuing education courses that are available at a time and place that's convenient for you. Discover a world of learning through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
The Amazon sets the background for the jungle of The Rock's new movie, The Rundown. The Rock plays Beck, a man who is after someone who is after a fortune, and now everyone is after them. Beck is sent to the jungle to retrieve Travis, a wise guy played by Sean William Scott. Travis ends up being more of a handful than Beck had expected. Beck finds himself trying to keep on top of the obstacles the jungle throws at him. Not only did The Rock star in this film, he also did his own stunts.
The very least that I could do to give back to the audience, just make sure that you know it's me. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that for not only for the movie and for everybody else who's working hard on the movie. I'll be there, as well as, more importantly, the audience.
The actual Brazilian Amazon was considered for filming, but was not used. A scouting trip to research design ideas was cut short by an unexpected and frightening encounter with armed bandits. The film was instead filmed in The Rock's homeland of Hawaii. Hundreds of pounds of red dirt and thousands of tropical plants were brought in to lay the foundation of this enormous set. The Rundown opens in theaters everywhere September 26th. Now it's time to look at the events happening in your area. Many people have to go to experts for advice. This line of work has expanded to agriculture. Today, we spend a day in the life of a crop consultant.
This looks like an ordinary pickup truck. It is actually a high-tech office on wheels.
Well, it's kind of like me in the pickup driving around. It's like somebody in the office walking around for coffee all day or getting up and going and get papers. I just drive around different parts of the field.
Paul is a crop consultant. He works with farmers to improve their crop outcome. This time of year, Paul spends most of his time in his vehicle.
We aren't home a lot to do our work in our home office. We need to keep up to date in our vehicle.
That means almost everything.
Everything but the kitchen sink. Sometimes you have a microwave with you to heat up lunch at noon.
Paul's truck is loaded with equipment that allows him to take soil samples. Different areas in the field have higher or lower nutrient levels. A hydraulic cylinder pushes a 4-foot-long probe into the ground. The soil is then put in 3 different buckets: the top layer, the middle, and then the deep layer. A computer is used for precision agriculture. Paul is able to mark off areas with a satellite image of the field where different amounts of fertilizer are needed. Being a crop consultant can sometimes be a risky business.
You could always have a hose that breaks and you can get oil sprayed all over the place. It might be inside the cab, could be underneath. You could have a fire underneath your pickup from collecting chaff if it's dry out with a hot engine.
Paul's work follows the farmer's schedule.
Just like farming, you know, you've got your busy spring and summer, your busy fall, and then you can enjoy the winter and relax a little bit and then gear up for the next year.
So as long as the farmer is in need of advice, people like Paul would roam the countryside in their mobile offices. I'm Stan Brand reporting for Studio One.
Millions of dollars are spent every year on chemicals in agriculture. Crop consultants like Paul try to cut these expenses for the farmer and help the environment while doing it. A team made up of college students from around the country have came together to create a satellite. Later, we'll meet with a college senior that has helped build 2. Many people have more than one remote control for their electronics. The clutter of multiple remotes can be complicated. Later, we'll show you how a wiring system can help reduce frustrations. That story plus news, sports, and weather in the next half hour of Studio One.
North Dakota has been home to many successful entrepreneurs. George Bull and his partners found value in farina, the whitest part of wheat, and created cream of wheat. Patrick Haggerty is the founder of one of the nation's high-tech giants, Texas Instruments. And Raymond Rood's product has been used in every Olympic competition since 1960. He is responsible for the modern diving board. Ryan Foltz is the first graduate of the UND Entrepreneurship Program. Are you next?
The University of North Dakota Alumni Association and Foundation, together with thousands of alumni and friends, are making a difference at UND. Thanks to generous private support, many students have experienced the rich history, tradition, and spirit of the University of North Dakota. UND alumni and friends understand the importance of education and are proud to be part of UND's growth and success. Learn how your gift to the UND Foundation can benefit you and your university. You can make a difference.
Earn a degree in engineering while you continue to work. The University of North Dakota's Distance Engineering Degree Program offers the only ABET accredited undergraduate degree program at a distance. Instructors and classes are delivered to you through online lectures and condensed on-campus laboratories.
It's convenient, it's flexible, and it's a quality education.
UND Continuing Education and the School of Engineering and Mines, teaming up to bring quality education to your door.
Tradition runs deep among American Indian people. One of those traditions is helping others. At the University of North Dakota, American Indian Student Services is dedicated to helping students succeed. Our support services include tutoring and financial aid assistance. We have more American Indian programs than any other university in the U.S., making UND a leader in Indian education. Be a part of our tradition. Call 1-800-CALL-UND.
From the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks, this is Studio One.
Welcome back to Studio One.
Thanks for joining us today.
Well, later on in the show, we're actually going to see a segment where we're going out in the community and talking to people about what they think about the new pink $20 bill.
Right,
Now,
new colored money.
Yes, it's kind of a pinkish peach. I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's the color of pig and poo. But let's see here. It's not actually a new thing. It's the third time in 5 years that we've changed our currency.
Really?
So,
the 20 itself? Or?
Yeah, the $20 bill itself.
Wow.
So, people shouldn't be that shocked.
Well,
but we get to hear what they think.
Yeah, and hopefully this time it'll stick.
Yeah.
All right, also coming up in the next 30 minutes on Studio One, fires and floods damage or destroy many homes each year. Homeowners can often recover losses through insurance. We'll tell you about another disaster that unfortunately leaves people and property owners slipping through the cracks.
Also, with the rise in technology, managing home electronics can be frustrating. Coming up, we'll tell you a way to make things simple again.
A team of engineering students have come together to explore space. Later on, we'll talk with a leader of this project. It's always fun when people are trying to get out there into outer space. Well, before we get to all that, here's today's news with Sarah Spencer.
Thanks, Monty and Jill. A bomb exploded Thursday outside a hotel in Baghdad where the NBC News Bureau is located. One NBC employee has suffered minor injuries and the night manager of the hotel is dead. The explosive device went off near a generator outside the hotel. The blast left a crater 2 feet across and 3 inches deep in the sidewalk. The man killed was sleeping just a few feet from where the bomb went off. NBC employees are not the only occupants of the 3-story hotel, but their rooms were directly above the blast. Coalition explosive experts have been sent to the scene to investigate. With terror and violence still a major concern in Iraq, Americans struggle with just how much to spend on rebuilding the country. Thursday marked the third day of hearings before congressional meetings on President Bush's budget request. Bush is asking for $87 billion for the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The request has met with heavy opposition from Democrats who have criticized Bush's strategy for post-war Iraq. University students who use campus connections to illegally download music may soon pay the price for their actions. In early September, the recording industry began lawsuits targeting over 250 people who share music online. When a song is downloaded, it's stored in a shared folder that anyone with a similar program can access. The record industry uses the same method to track people who share music. Under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, a record company can subpoena for a list of people who share music. This could make a university liable for student downloading, forcing schools to turn over the names of violators. But some believe that most students have little to worry about.
I don't think anybody who's maybe just sitting at home downloading music is going to get prosecuted, but it's the big time that have thousands and thousands that are using the high-speed networks through colleges that are the ones they're going to go after.
The music industry hopes that the fear of prosecution will encourage people to return to CD stores to purchase their favorite music. A new study shows that cheap liquor promotions are partly to blame for binge drinking among college students. Researchers at Harvard School of Public Health found a high rate of binge drinking on college campuses that were located near liquor stores and bars that offered drink discounts. Researchers say it's not just the advertisements, but specials like refillable cups or cheap pitchers that encourage students to drink more. The study suggests that in order to decrease binge drinking among college students, the advertising of beer and other alcoholic beverages near campuses needs to be controlled. Homeowners are able to prepare for potential disasters thanks to insurance. Whether it is a fire or a flood, insurance makes it possible for people to recover financially, but not when it comes to landslides.
Rob Quaid never thought he would have to worry about a view like this in his backyard.
It's just a tragedy to whoever it happens to, not just me.
Rob's family and several others in Crookston, Minnesota, are in the process of recovering from a landslide that destroyed their properties. But rallying from this natural disaster will not be an easy task.
I thought I was insured, and there's nobody has insurance for this ground movement. I found out in the United States there's 20 to 30 people a year killed by this kind of thing, and there's no insurance whatsoever.
Neither private nor federal insurance covers landslides, as opposed to almost every other natural disaster. So few people are victims of disasters like the one in Crookston that, while devastating, there are not enough incidents for companies to bother with providing coverage.
Landslide is not available. It's not a coverage available. There are areas of country prone to earthquakes where they can buy earthquake clauses to cover that sort of thing. But landslide is not covered.
This is not the first time the Crookston area has faced this natural disaster before. The region has had continuous movement over the years. Another major landslide occurred in the 1930s. The recent events in Crookston have brought attention to the fact that the ground here is not stable. As a result, residents have become very motivated to take action. They are lobbying for the victims' insurance companies to do whatever they can to help. Since the landslide affected 8 properties, the damage is not considered to be severe enough for FEMA to step in. In the meantime, frustrated homeowners wait for aid.
If it was a fire, I was covered for $500,000 in replacement cost, but now nothing. It doesn't make any sense.
Landslides can claim an entire home in seconds, yet it is not clear how long it will take for insurance companies to create policies to help the victims of the landslides. Until then, all people can do is wait. New Zealand, France, and Japan all have insurance programs that cover catastrophes like landslides. And that's news for now. Monty and Jill.
Thanks, Sarah. That's terrible how something like that can happen and you're left with no insurance to go to.
I completely agree. And the weather team actually did a story on landslides and how they happen. So why don't we go to BJ Eisen at the Regional Weather Information Center and he can tell us all about it.
Well, Monty and Jill, we will have that story coming up in just a second on why those landslides occur. But first, let's take a look at our national forecast across the U.S. As you can see, high-pressure systems will be dominating much of the country. There will be a high-pressure system mainly in the plains area of the United States, also one off onto the west coast. But we will be seeing those pressure systems and fronts moving off the east coast. But we do see another one developing and sliding in from Canada just north of Minnesota, bringing more rain showers for the Dakotas. So they will be seeing more showers and even colder temperatures around there. Property near lakes and rivers is sought after for its beauty and recreation, but there can be a major downside to owning waterfront property. Small-scale landslides are common phenomena along eroding riverbanks. The force of moving water causes shores to erode and the soil weakens. That's when things start to crumble.
When that happens, there's less resisting force here, less mass to resist downward movement of the slope. So this material will break loose and rotate. It's kind of a rotational thing and move this way.
During recent landslides in Crookston, Minnesota, many people's entire lawns sunk anywhere from a couple inches to nearly 20 feet. Homeowners say they noticed small cracks forming in the jello-feeling ground several days before the event, but they never realized their backyards would disappear. They also said you could hear roots breaking and trees splitting all throughout the night. Then, everything dropped. There's a history of landslides of this magnitude occurring when river levels are low and soils are either extremely wet or dry. If the river were higher, the water would help hold up the soil. If the soil is too saturated, it gets too heavy. When it's too dry, it crumbles easily.
The root underlying cause of this is the river moving over, eroding the bank, unbalancing the system and letting it slide down here.
The water in the river is simply doing what it's done for centuries, carving an ever-changing path throughout the land. Well, anyone living along a river should be aware of this dangerous hazard. The people we talked to thought it would never happen to them, but unfortunately, it did. So here's a recap of your weather IQ question for today. Throughout U.S. history, where did the most expensive landslide occur? And the answer is C, Thistle, Utah, back in 1983, where total costs exceeded $500 million. So Monty and Jill, that was an extensive landslide ranging in depth of a half a mile, and the width was like a mile wide in some places.
That's amazing. Thank you, BJ.
And $500 million worth of damage.
I know. And the answer was C, Utah. I was way off.
Yeah, you had California picked, right?
No woman's intuition here.
All right. Well, let's go now again to sports with Greg Ankers.
Thanks, Monty and Jill. When the weather is nice, many bars and restaurants open up their patio space for people to sit and relax. But some establishments use that extra space for a much different purpose. one that encourages their guests to become an active sport participant.
Monday through Thursday at this bar in Grand Forks, North Dakota, sports fanatics gather not just to watch the big game on television, but to take part in the action themselves. Here at Dagwood's Bar and at other bars across the United States, sand volleyball leagues have become a huge success. These co-ed teams sign up not only for the competitiveness of the sport, but also for the camaraderie.
I love to play and just got a bunch of friends together and decided we should play in a summer league.
Each team referees their own matches, calls their own penalties, and occasionally gets stuck in traffic chasing the ball.
We don't have nets, we just have a small 4-foot fence that goes around our area. So we end up with a lot of balls out on 42nd Street, and inevitably you'll be out there chasing one of them, and a big truck will come by and run over it and pop a few of them.
Though the league at Dagwood's is played for fun, it is sometimes taken seriously with an occasional dispute between teams.
On occasion, again, when you have any kind of adult beverages and those kind of things involved with athletic competition, there's always going to be a disagreement or two, but usually it's between guys, and usually the girls step in and break them apart.
Some players say with summer coming to an end, the hardest part is dressing for the weather because it cools down in the evenings. But through all types of weather, these diehards don't mind keeping their feet bare as long as they're playing the game they love. This is Nadine Schrader reporting for Studio One.
Besides the amateur leagues across the United States, sand volleyball is also a professional sport. The Association of Volleyball Professionals beach volleyball tournaments are growing in popularity. The Pro League went from their annual 7 tournaments to 10 this year. They offer more than $1 million in prize money. Now, let's get back to that Studio One Sports trivia question. Who has the most career three-point field goals in the NBA? The answer is A. Mr. Clutch himself from the Indiana Pacers, Reggie Miller, with over 2,000 in his career. Monty and Jill, that's the sports.
Thanks a lot, Greg. Colored currency is used all over the world. The U.S. wants to join in with a pink $20 bill. Later, we'll see how some people feel about the upcoming change.
Also, technology is on the rise. Homes are equipped with so many electronics that it can be more frustrating than enjoyable. Coming up, we'll show you one way electronic stores can help.
There are many things to be found at the University of North Dakota School of Law. You will find a place with small class settings, an affordable place that offers student interaction with both the state and federal court systems. You will find a school that has averaged over 90% placement for its graduates the past 5 years. But most importantly, you will find the skills and experience you'll need throughout your legal career. Find your future at the University of North Dakota School of Law.
Explore the educational opportunities available through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota. With just one phone call or a click of the mouse, you'll find high-quality programs designed for today's adults. We have a large selection of continuing education courses that are available at a time and place that's convenient for you. Discover a world of learning through the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
Pink teddy bears, pink candy hearts, pink money? The Federal Reserve Bank has announced that on October 9th, people across the nation will be seeing pink in their wallets. They're releasing a new pink $20 bill. It It will be the third time in the last 5 years that the $20 bill has been changed. We wanted your thoughts on colored U.S. currency.
I don't see the reason for it. I think the current ones we have are just fine, and I don't see why we would need to change it. And so what if the other countries have it, you know? We got our own currency, let's just stick with it.
Why don't we keep it the same? You keep it the same, then maybe it doesn't cost you any more money. Okay. We're so much in debt anyway.
Well, it kind of reminds you of Canadian money, and that reminds you of monopoly money, but I guess it's okay.
It's a good thing they got the number in the back end, because most of the time they look so much like a $50 bill. The 20 does anyway. And if you don't look at the back right away, you're not going to get it.
Doesn't really matter to me. It's fine whatever they want to do. They're still spendable.
Those would be harder to counterfeit. And I think it's a good idea. Because I've seen times I would go in the store like with a $100 bill, and people would look at it, you know. So I think it's a very good idea. I hope it works.
Many people have more than one remote control to handle their home electronics. Luckily, with the push of only one button, the radio can play, a DVD can start, and the internet can connect. This sounds like an impossible dream to some, but some are already doing this in their homes.
Electronic devices are everywhere. With the rise in technology, most people have so many products that it can be overwhelming. Home wiring is a fairly recent innovation that helps many to uncomplicate the use of countless electronics in their homes. Mark Decker helps design and wire homes with this new technology.
Most of the industry calls it structured wiring. All that means is we have a plan, we sit down, draw it on the house, draw it on the plans. We make sure we have enough cable in there for TV, for satellite, for music throughout the house.
People can use technology like infrared hookups, keyless pads to run programs, and invisible speakers to blend in with home surroundings. Mark says this service is becoming popular and more affordable for the average home. One of the most popular services that Mark installs is home theater setups.
The TV and the home theater is nice because now we have kids, so we haven't been to a movie theater for many years, so you can rent movies, bring it home, and it sounds just as good at home. And it gets to the point where you almost rather watch a movie on a DVD at home because everything sounds just as good.
Mark says one touch of a button can save a person a lot of time.
So the customer can push one button and it will turn the stereo on, turn the TV on, turn the TV to a specific input, turn the satellite, fire off a whole bunch of stuff, so it's one button push for the customer.
Mark says this system is so easy that even children can operate it. For most people, the easier it is to operate their home electronics, the better. With photographer Jessica Denny, I'm Adria Ensrud reporting for Studio One.
Mark says it takes little time to install a home wiring service. In fact, it can take anywhere from 1 day to a week to wire an entire house. It looks like a cube, acts like a computer, and can withstand drastic weather conditions. Coming up in the show, we'll talk with someone who designs satellites.
No matter what your schedule, no matter when you work, no matter what job you have now, this is your opportunity to accomplish your goals. Degrees After Hours at the University of North Dakota can work around your busy schedule. Bachelor and master's degrees are earned through convenient, flexible, and high-quality classes. Complete degrees are available online, through correspondence study, and on weekends and evenings. Earn a degree on your terms with Degrees After Hours at the University of North Dakota.
Let the University of North Dakota become your strategic partner by providing your business with skills to enhance your workforce retention and productivity efforts. The UND Office of Workforce Development has extensive experience in conducting employee satisfaction research, workforce needs assessments, and the development of customized training materials. Call us for further information. Workforce Development, a service of the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
The UND College of Business and Public Administration is reaching out to rural America. The Government Rural Outreach Initiative is working to connect you with important information you need. Use the internet to access government services such as employment opportunities, license renewals, applications for government benefits, and much more. The Government Rural Outreach Initiative is funded with the support of the North Dakota Congressional Delegation. To learn how we are helping you get connected, visit go.ndgrow.com.
The School of Engineering and Mines at UND has a long history of preparing students for successful careers. Through small classes and faculty involvement, students have unique opportunities to gain hands-on experience. Here, students launch a weather balloon to test a remote imaging device destined for Earth orbit. Students can also become involved in wind energy and fuel cell projects, design, build, and race a Formula One car, or even develop a camera that will generate agricultural images from the International Space Station. Find out for yourself how you can get involved at UND School of Engineering and Mines.
The University of North Dakota is sponsoring a program called CubeSat. Engineering students from all over the country have been working together with UND students to design and build a satellite. Project manager Jason Sentai is here to talk with us about his work. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, everyone's probably wondering, what exactly is the CubeSat? Tell me about it.
Well, the CubeSat program is a program here that gets started at UND 2 years ago. And what it is basically it's a small satellite. There's a team of engineering students who are building a satellite that's about this big here. It's very small, it's 10 centimeters cubed. And it's a project that actually stemmed out from Stanford University. And the whole idea with CubeSat is just that it's very expensive to launch anything in outer space. And so with the CubeSat program, we take very small satellites from various universities across the country, and they launch them all together so you can defer some of the costs. Everybody can pay like $50,000 as opposed to somebody paying $2 million.
Right. And why is UND sponsoring this? What are the benefits to UND? I mean,
okay, well, UND right now has an ultimate goal, the engineering department anyway, of building a permanent Earth satellite. It's a satellite that's like the big ones you've seen on TV that'll rotate around the Earth, or orbit the Earth, I should say, and will stay up there permanently, or for as many years as they want to use it. Problem is, you can't just jump out and build a satellite one day without any experience. You have to come up with different ways of solving the problems, finding a way to communicate with the thing. And so this is a step along the way for UND. And it also provides great experience for a lot of the students in the engineering departments.
Okay, I have no idea, so you're going to have to tell me, how do you put a satellite into space?
Okay, well, putting a satellite in outer space is not an easy thing to do, obviously. First and foremost, you have to do a lot of testing. And some of the testing we've done here at UND is we're actually working on our second iteration of CubeSat, the second one we're trying to build. And the first one we launched in a weather balloon. And we launched it up to about 100,000 feet 2 different times because the conditions there are very similar to what you'd experience in outer space. One of the biggest things, like I said, is testing. You have to make sure that it'll work in the cold, since it's very cold in space. In the heat, it gets very warm in space as well when you're facing the sun, and in a vacuum. It also has to be able to be shaken and take a lot of strong vibration when it's being launched in a rocket.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And how did this project come about?
The CubeSat project actually started, like I said earlier, at Stanford University by a guy named Bob Twiggs. He's a professor out there. And he came up with this idea that he thinks space projects would be great to be able to do at universities, but very few of them can actually afford to send something into space because it costs millions of dollars. And so he came up with this idea of having a very standardized satellite that everyone would build, and they'd have a way of launching them all. And then numerous universities could go in together into getting a launch. And he started this out at Stanford University. It's spread across the country, and there are various ones being built as well in Japan.
Well, I'm sure if a satellite's going into space, there's got to be tons of tests. What types of tests are done?
Like I said, we have to make sure it works in the cold and the heat and a vacuum and vibration. So we do tests for each of those. In the cold, we put it in a deep freezer with liquid nitrogen, try and get it down to about -50 degrees below Celsius. We also throw it in actually just a standard oven to heat the thing up and to see if it'll work in the warm conditions as well. And then we also have to test it in a vacuum chamber, which is just a small chamber that sucks as much of the air out as it can, which is the majority of it, to get it to a level where it's very similar to outer space, because that can definitely affect how something, especially an electrical component, can operate. And then we also do some testing where we just put it up in a weather balloon and launch it way up, as well as vibration testing, I guess I should mention too. We put it in a table that shakes the heck out of it, so we have an idea if it'll stay together when it's going to be launched on a rocket.
That makes sense. What types of obstacles have you encountered while working on this CubeSat project?
Quite a few. Testing was the biggest one, as I've emphasized it a lot, but it's something we don't deal with at the university very often, at least as undergraduate students. Engineering students typically do some sort of a design project in their senior year, but it's usually a big mess of wires that is on a breadboard or some sort of little board, and if you dropped it, it'd quit working. And so we had to learn how to design something in the same way we normally would, but that would be able to operate under these extreme conditions. As well as there's been some experiences just getting a team to work well together. Usually in the undergraduate setting, at least in our engineering departments, we before didn't have a lot of times where you had to work on a team and coordinate the efforts of various people. And now we've got experience with that with a lot of the programs we have there.
Awesome. Well, last question for you. Obviously, you have a lot of things going on, being a student at UND and other, I'm sure, academic and fun things that you're involved in. Why are you involved in this project? I mean, what is this project doing for you?
Well, the CubeSat project has been a great experience for me. I actually got involved because I was looking for a job when I came back from studying abroad, and I didn't have any sort of job lined up, and I was kind of just tossed in there. The position was offered, and it worked well because I was going to summer school at the same time. But actually, I found it to be a great experience. It gives me a chance to actually do something that's at least closer to the real working world. And I had never really had any sort of opportunity to do that before. And I've gotten a chance actually to do some managing a little bit with this now, the engineering side, and coordinating the efforts of people from several departments, mechanical engineering and electrical, and it's been great.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about
Thank you for having me.
You're watching Studio One from the University of North Dakota. We'll be right back after this.
Tradition runs deep among American Indian people. One of those traditions is helping others. At the University of North Dakota, American Indian Student Services is dedicated to helping students succeed. Our support services include tutoring and financial aid assistance. We have more American Indian programs than any other university in the U.S., making UND a leader in Indian education. Be a part of our tradition. Call 1-800-CALL-UND.
Let the University of North Dakota become your strategic partner by providing your business with skills to enhance your workforce retention and productivity efforts. The UND Office of Workforce Development has extensive experience in conducting employee satisfaction research, workforce needs assessments, and the development of customized training materials. Call us for further information. Workforce Development, a service of the Division of Continuing Education at the University of North Dakota.
Students in this interactive class at the University of North Dakota are learning together with other students from across the state. UND is committed to helping students take courses and even earn degrees without leaving home. I'm Charles Capcella, President of the University of North Dakota. For information on how you can get a UND education wherever you live, check our website at www.und.edu.
The Graduate School at the University of North Dakota is the premier graduate school of the Northern Great Plains, offering advanced degrees in more than 50 fields of study. Our innovative and flexible programs give full-time students, as well as working professionals, the opportunity to study under the guidance of nationally and internationally recognized faculty. Advance your career with a master's or doctoral degree from the Graduate School at the University of North Dakota.
The UND College of Business and Public Administration is reaching out to rural America. The Government Rural Outreach Initiative is working to connect you with important information you need. Use the internet to access government services such as employment opportunities, license renewals, applications for government benefits, and much more. The Government Rural Outreach Initiative is funded with the support of the North Dakota Congressional Delegation. To learn how we are helping you get connected, visit go.ndgrow.com.
Tune in next week on Studio One. We'll take a ride in the back seat of one of New York City's most recognized rides. We'll spend a day in the life of a taxi driver. Plus, we'll have other news and entertainment stories for you.
We're going to leave you now with pictures courtesy of photographer Charles Moore. From all of us here at Studio One, have a great week.